Desirae. So I just went through all of your videos and looked at your theory, and as usual, everything looks super good for this week. You did a great job. Sorry, my chair is like crazy squeaky right now, so I hope that is not too terribly annoying, but it is distracting to me, so what can you do? Okay, anyway, so we have a workshop coming up on Monday, and so we have a couple options for that. I actually think Tarantella could maybe be a good piece if you would be ready to try playing that in front of other people. You did a great job on it for the last couple of weeks especially, and your recording, and I'll talk more about it in a second, but your recording that you sent for this week is really, really good. We improved on a lot already. So that would be a good option, and if you would prefer, we could go back and review something older. The more recent pieces would probably be either Marine's Hymn or Moonlit Shores from our other book that we're not using anymore. So if you would prefer to do one of those other songs, we could of course do that instead. If you feel ready to try out Tarantella, we can go with that. So think about it, decide what you want to do, and then I will see you on Monday with whatever piece you want to play for the workshop. So then theory, let's see. We had 22 and 23. You did a fantastic job on these. So the only thing that I wanted to go over was on page 22. And it's one of those just kind of interesting peculiarities about music theory. It's one of those weirder things that just takes some getting used to before you remember it regularly. So if you look at, I'm on page 22, section number 29, and it's the third example. So it's when we get back to, I know I don't have any answers filled in on mine here, but when you get back to the treble clef line here, right, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm looking at the third measure right here. And you can see, especially on mine, there's no answers, there's nothing in that measure at all, right? And you drew in a beautiful half rest and quarter rest to total 3 counts because that's what we want for that measure. However, this is the weird thing. Whenever we use a rest to rest for an entire measure, we actually will always use the whole rest, even if we have a different number of beats in the measure than 4, right? So that's kind of the peculiar thing about the whole rest is no matter how many beats per measure we use, if we want to show that we're resting for an entire measure, we always use the whole rest. So your rests added up to 3 counts. But if we were kind of following the bizarre music theory rules there, then we would want to show that as a whole rest instead. You had the right number of beats, but when it's only a rest in the measure, it'll just always default to the whole rest. So that's kind of the weird thing there. But you did a wonderful job. Your rests are all so beautiful. And then our crossword on page 23 was fantastic. You did a great job there. So for next time, we're going to go on to page 24. The next few assignments that we do are going to be some interval review. We've done this in our other theory books. It's just good to get some practice in every so often. So we'll start out. This will hopefully be a pretty easy page for you this week. We'll just do page 24. And this is just looking at seconds. So remember, an interval just measures the distance between 2 notes on the keyboard. And we kind of go by the number of letter names that we're covering. So from C to D, right, covers 2 alphabet notes on the scale. So we would call that a second. And if we were covering from C to E, well, that covers C, D, and E. So we would call that a third because we're crossing the distance of 3 letter names. So we'll just review our seconds. They show you at the top of the page a couple of examples. And then remember on the staff, when we're doing melodic seconds, which is 1 note at a time, it just looks like what you would expect. Here's your first note and there's your second note. And then when we do harmonic seconds, it's a little bit different because normally we stack harmonic intervals directly on top of each other. But when we're dealing with seconds, we cannot do that because it would just be a giant mess. So instead, we make them as close as they can be, buddy-buddy, but they're slightly off to the side, not directly on top of each other. All right, so you'll just practice drawing in the notes to complete the melodic seconds. First, it'll be going up by a second and then going down. And then the last section on that page will be harmonic seconds. So you'll find out which note is needed to create the correct second interval, and then you'll name both the notes underneath each measure. Alrighty, so your arpeggios, so good. So you did a fantastic job. We got all 4 octaves really smooth, even tempo all the way through. We had a really good pace, so not too slow and not too fast. And we did a great job spacing out those notes all the way through. Fingering looks perfect. Everything that we had been talking about the last couple of weeks, you did beautifully. So that is super, super good. What we'll do for this week is we won't actually do any new technique, especially since I'll see you next week here on Tuesday. I have a new technique page for you for what we're going to do next. So we'll just take a few days off from technique and then we'll get started on something new when I see you next week. So no technique. And then we'll do, yes, tarantella and sailing. So tarantella, like I said earlier, you did a great job on. We've got all of the correct form there, going from the A section to the B section and then ending by going back to the A section again. Let's see. You did a great job on the A section rhythm. That's improved a ton. So good work with either reviewing the recording or just making sure you're counting to yourself. Whatever strategy you used to improve your rhythm there worked great. Did a wonderful job. Let's see. Oh yeah, the B section. I have one quick reminder for this week as you review it. I will want to hear this one again on Tuesday, whether or not, why can I not find this? Whether or not you decide to do it for the workshop. I want to hear it one more time in person just because you improved it so much. We'll hang on to it for one more week just to get it really solid and then do it at least one more time in our lesson next week. But on your B section, when you start that section, remember we have some E flats in there. I think we maybe forgot that on the recording that you sent me. So everything else looked really, really good. Great notes, much, much better on your rhythm. Just want to make sure we remember those E flats on the B section there. Sailing, talk about that one next. Notes looking great. So I did want you to double check for me your left hand on measure 3 and then again on measure 7. So on measure 3, you should have a C and F and an A. Right? I think we maybe forgot to move the thumb up to the A in the recording that you sent. And then on measure 7, we want to have a D and an F sharp. And I think we maybe just forgot to include the sharp there on the F. So just take a quick look at those for this week. Make sure you're getting all the correct notes, especially on measure 3 and measure 7. And then on the right hand, again, notes and fingering, looking great. So I just wanted to remind you of the rhythm. Again, remember, it's really important once we get a good handle on the notes to really pay close attention to our rhythm, because it's super annoying to have to go back later and try and fix it and relearn the rhythm, and it just totally changes the feel of what you're used to playing for the song. So when we first start a section, we'll focus mostly on the notes and the fingering, and then once we kind of have an idea of what to do, pretty quickly we want to start shifting our attention to the rhythm so that way we learn it really close to the beginning of working on a piece, or at least a new section of a piece, and that way it's a lot easier in the long run. So like I said, notes and fingering looking great. So I'm just going to play through the rhythm here for you. I'm actually going to do it twice. Once I'm just going to play through without saying anything, so that way you can hear how it sounds. And then I'm also going to play it a second time and count along as I go. One of those may be more helpful to you than the other. It may be helpful to kind of go back and play along with one or the other as you practice this week, or maybe it's more helpful to hear the counts or to not hear the counts. So either way, you'll have both options to choose from as you work on it, but it would be probably a good idea to go back to this part of the video, when you are practicing over the next few days, so that way you have a reference point and we can start getting that rhythm in your head, because sometimes listening to it can be a great way to practice learning the rhythm as well, right? You're much more likely to remember it if it's familiar, and one great way to get it familiar is just to listen to it. So you'll have both of those examples. So I will quit talking about giving you the examples and give you the examples. All right, it's okay. I don't have my stand up here again, so let's see, will you be able to see everything? I think so. All right, I know it's kind of farther away here, but so the first time through, I'm just gonna play it without counting out loud. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, I was trying so hard not to cough while I was playing that. Okay. So that is the entire thing without the counts. I'll do the same thing again, but this time I'm going to count out loud as I go so you can see where all of the notes line up and hear that with the counts. All right. So again, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so like I said, for this week, make sure that you try and practice with at least one of those. And again, if you need a little bit more time to kind of get some of those sections faster, that's okay. When you're playing along with a recording or with another example of something, you don't have to have every single thing perfect. It's okay if you end up missing a note or you have to only do a little bit at a time or stop and jump back in. The whole point is that it's there for you to get used to playing longer sections with all of the correct notes and rhythm. So, like I said, maybe it's going to be more helpful specifically to just go back and listen to the rhythm, right? Maybe that first example without the counts is going to be more helpful to get that more in your head, or maybe it helps to just hear how the counts all line up with the notes. Either way, you have both. So I would just make sure that you reference those in your practice this week so we can really focus on getting that rhythm down. Our goal for next time is to be ready to try these two lines with both hands together. So we really want to be super comfortable with our rhythm so that way then we can shift our focus again to now focusing on how do our hands line up with the coordination playing both at the same time. All right, and then I also got your goals that you would like to be working on for probably it'll be about the end of this year, so the next 4 months or so. And I love all of them. You have some of the best goals that I have seen most people come up with, and I don't think I even really gave you much to go off of with what kind of goals we're thinking about. But I absolutely love your 3 things that you would like to start working on and get better at. We've got playing by ear, we've got playing off of chord charts, which I super love, and being able to play and sing together. So we'll definitely start moving in the direction of working on getting better at some of those things over the next few months, but I absolutely love them. I think they're all doable and we can get really comfortable with all 3 of those things, especially, if we continue to work on them over the next year or so. I think we can really make a lot of progress there. So that's very exciting. I can't wait. And then oh yeah, that was the other thing, is we'll start a new Christmas book when I see you on Tuesday. So I have that here ready for you. It'll be a little bit, I think, more enjoyable than the one that we were using last year. I think at this point now you've advanced enough that we won't really get much out of the one that we had before, so we'll just get started in a new one. I think you'll like a lot of the arrangements, and it'll be very similar to what we're doing in the Bastion piano book, but it'll be actually, I think, a little bit easier, so we can learn the pieces pretty quickly and hopefully maybe even be able to start working on playing and singing some together, because being able to do that with Christmas stuff especially, I think, is super fun. So we will get started on something there on Tuesday, but I will actually see you next on Monday for the workshop. I don't need to know ahead of time which song you want to do. Just make sure, again, you decide between the Tarantella, Marine's Hymn, Moonlit Shores, even like harmonic blues, something that we've done in the past that you feel really comfortable with. That's really what we're looking for, so that you feel like you can do a good job with it on Monday. And that'll be all that we have. All right, very good. Well, I can't wait to see you next week, and have a great rest of your week, and see you on Monday.